In section 1.5, we're going to talk about quadratic equations. And the general form of a quadratic equation is something of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers and a cannot be 0 because we want to have an equation where there's an x squared term, and if a was 0, the x squared term would not be there. So there are a number of different ways of solving quadratic equations. The first is called the zero product principle, and that's if a times b equals 0, then either a has to be 0 or b has to be 0. So you use this principle when the quadratic looks like the following: ax squared plus bx equals 0, and that's the case if c is equal to 0. Okay. Method 2 is to try a basic factoring method, and I use that when the quadratic looks like this. X squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So in this case, if a is equal to 1, then you might want to try the basic factoring method. Okay, so let's look at example 1 and try these two tactics. So in example 1, the first thing you want to do is get all the x's over to one side to put it in the general form. So you're going to have 6x squared minus 20x equals 0. And in this case, c is equal to 0, so we can try the zero product principle. And so the idea here is that we're going to factor out a power of x. So in this case, we're going to get 2x. You factor 2x out, and you're going to get 3x minus 10 is equal to 0. And so once you've factored out the x and maybe some constant, now you know that either 2x has to equal 0 or 3x minus 10 has to equal 0. So either 2x equals 0 or 3x minus 10 is equal to 0. So this is like the a times b equals 0. This could be the a, and that would be the b. And we're saying that either a has to be 0 or b has to be equal to 0. Okay? And so in the first case, you get that x has to equal 0. And in the second case, you get that 3x has to equal 10. So that means x has to be equal to 10 thirds. So those are the two solutions in that case. Now, in example 2, when we get all the terms over to one side, we'll have x squared minus 13x plus 36 is equal to 0. And in this case, a is equal to 1, so we can try the basic factoring method. And so again, we want to try and factor x squared minus 13x plus 36 as something in the form x minus something times x minus something. And in this case, we're looking for things that will multiply to give us 36 and add up to be negative 13. And so if you think of factors of 36, you have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 4 and 9, and 6 and 6. And of all those, 4 and 9 are the ones that add up to be 13. So I should have x minus 9 and x minus 4. So we have x minus 9 times x minus 4 is equal to 0. And now what we're going to do is set either x minus 9 equal to 0 or x minus 4 equal to 0. So in the first case, x has to equal 9. And in the second case, x has to equal 4. Alright, that's it.